Hey, how you doing everyone? Welcome back to another video on the epic Kawasaki ZH2. Now today we're going to be discussing a topic that doesn't really get brought up all that often, and that is how to get over the fear of motorcycles. Now of course it's quite easy to understand on a bike like this where you've got 200 odd horsepower, you've got 140 odd newton meters of torque, weighs 240 kilograms of weight. It's quite a heavy bike. All of those things make it quite an intimidating prospect. But unfortunately this also applies to little bikes as well, 125cc, 50cc scooters even. The very first few times that you get on these bikes, you might be quite scared. So in today's video we're going to discuss how you can get over that fear. So let's jump on and let's go. Alright, so when I get on a bike for the first time, I try to get myself familiar with the controls first. The very first thing I do is understand where everything is. Now of course with the vast majority of motorcycles out there, all the controls are pretty much exactly the same, but even down to these little buttons, understanding what they do sometimes helps me with a little bit of my confidence. Understanding where the foot placements are as well, because that's going to be quite a shocker to some of you. Sometimes when you get used to riding a particular type of motorcycle, it surprises you how far the foot pegs go back or how much you're leaning forward. Little things like that might knock you back a little bit. You might think, wow, okay, am I actually ready to get on something like this? Well, a lot of it comes down to doing it. I know that sounds a little bit simplistic, but you know me, I like to try and keep things as simple as possible. I don't like to overcomplicate things. But getting on the bike and actually giving it a ride is obviously the best way to get over that fear. You can't look at a bike and expect to get over the fear of it. You've got to be able to ride it. But of course the way how you ride it, the place, the area that you are riding it on, that all has an impact. Imagine that you're riding this brand new bike that you've never ridden before and you're riding it in a really busy area. Well, at that point you're not thinking about getting used to the bike, are you? You're thinking more about everything else around you, as you should be. So little things like that can really help. Little sheepies. That one's quite close to the road. Yeah, it's funny how motorcycles, every single motorcycle I've ever been on has been intimidating one way or another. And it's difficult to describe because, oh wow, there's lots of sheep. Oh dear, sheep running across the road. Because you're really excited to ride the bike. You really want to get on it, but at the same time, it's a little bit like, well, okay, I've got to be really careful. This thing can be damn dangerous if I'm stupid with it. And just that idea of a motorcycle being dangerous a lot of the time is enough to really knock our confidence. And again, as I've kind of mentioned before, bikes are pretty much as dangerous as you make them. Alright, there are too many riders out there that take unnecessary risks. It might be in the name of enjoyment, fun, or it might even just be because they're trying to get somewhere quicker than everybody else. I don't know. But things like that, obviously, they taint the view of everybody. When a rider does something stupid, it just taints everyone else's view. But that's what you'll have in the back of your mind, is little things like that. But trust me, as soon as you get on the bike and you start moving, once you get it going, once you're moving, once you're on the bike, that's when you're going to be doing the right thing. That's when you're going to be getting used to the bike. That's when you're going to be doing what you need to do to really start enjoying a motorcycle. I can kind of understand how bikes can, the fear of a motorcycle can overtake the enjoyment aspect of it, and unfortunately that is the case still with my wife today. She does struggle, but that's the thing, once she's been on the bike for a good 10 minutes even, it doesn't take that long, she starts to enjoy it. She understands that actually it's not as scary as she keeps thinking it is. But my wife is one of those people that gets in her head a lot about things, and I know that I have a few friends that are like that as well, where they get in their head a lot about stuff when they really don't need to. And it's just the way how people are, the way how people think about things and overcomplicate things in their head is part and parcel of the reason why something might seem so intimidating at first. But then, yeah, once you actually get on it, once you start taking things easy, giving yourself time to understand what it feels like, why it feels the way it feels, understanding how everything works, understanding the power. We are going to be shooting another video later on today about how to prepare yourself for a lot of torque, a lot of power, and what you can do to kind of get yourself ready to experience it for the first time. Because again, it's a topic that not a lot of people discuss. It's like, well, you get a more powerful bike and you're kind of just expected to just get on it and get over it kind of thing. Just, you know what I mean? Just use it and you'll get the hang of it eventually. But there's not a lot of guidance out there about how you can actually prepare yourself for what the experience is going to be like. To be honest with you, and this might not work for everyone, but for me, I try not to think about it. I just get on and do it. Especially if you're someone who has experience riding bikes already. It's like, well, if you know how to ride a motorcycle, just do what you already know. Don't think about it. Let instinct take over a little bit and just feel it out. That's for an experienced rider, someone that knows how to ride a motorcycle and they've ridden bikes before. Well, of course, when you get on something like a ZH2 for the first time, it can be really intimidating. I mean, for me, it's really interesting because because I'd had that experience on my ZZR and I had that intimidation factor on the ZZR, when I got on this bike, I really didn't know what to expect. And I was kind of thinking, well, it's not going to be as powerful as the ZZR 1400 because it wasn't on paper. But then when I actually started riding it, wow, I realized what the difference really was between the two bikes. And bearing in mind that the ZZR 1400 has got more horsepower, it's heavier, has more torque, but this bike feels scarier to ride. But for me, I'm one of those people that actually enjoys that fear. You know, I enjoy the fact that this motorcycle has got so much power that I could never really use it 100%. But that really just excites me. And for some people it does, some people it doesn't. Some people, it might be other things like, you know, just leaning into corners quickly, or, I don't know, just being able to experience the world around you on a motorcycle. A lot of the time people get excited just by that prospect alone. Little ponies. Okay, so that's for an experienced rider. For someone who hasn't got on a motorcycle before, it's more of a case of having to prepare yourself mentally, unfortunately. Because of course, if you don't have that experience already, then, well, it's quite easy to psych yourself out, isn't it? Before you even get on the bike. And again, this happened to my wife as well when she was doing her CBT. So she did her CBT. She thought it was going to be alright, and it ended up being a real nightmare for her. She really didn't enjoy it, and the instructor wasn't good either. And so from that experience, she ended up going for her second CBT. She ended up going into it really stressed out, really scared of the whole prospect. And actually the next CBT she had was much better because her instructor was better and was actually teaching her the right things and doing things properly. Unfortunately, too many instructors out there don't do the right thing. They don't teach people properly. And again, it's just little things like that. You can imagine, can't you, that you hear experiences like, oh, my CBT was awful, my instructor was awful, and all of a sudden you've got this excitement about getting on a motorcycle the first time and starting off the process, and right at the first hurdle, someone's saying to you how bad the experience was on your CBT. And for me, a CBT, so compulsory basic training, for those of you who don't know, is the first thing you've got to do on a motorcycle before you can get on a 125. So that's the first thing you got to do. And honestly, the CBT, don't worry about it. Okay, you do it. Don't worry about the experience of it, because that experience is not the actual experience you're going to have when you're actually riding on your own. All right, when you're out with other people, when you're out with an instructor that you're trying not to piss off, it can be more difficult to enjoy the experience. All right. Trust me, when you actually get on a bike for the first time, your own, and you're out and about, it becomes a lot easier. You really should research the theory of how a motorcycle works, and don't just expect a CVT instructor to teach you everything. Check out videos, check out our channel, check out our tutorials, check out how to ride a motorcycle beforehand, so you're going into it a little bit more prepared. And it's really funny because when I started getting into bikes, YouTube was only just a thing. It only just happened. This was back in 2006, 2007. And so there wasn't a lot of content out there on the internet about this kind of stuff. Nowadays, you can find out so much information about anything on YouTube and on Google. It wasn't necessarily the case back then. And so I had to be one of those people, like everyone else back in the day, that had to figure it out. Had to figure it out as you went. And now, it's so much easier because you've got so many experienced people now that are able to explain the experience and how it feels, that you've got a lot of resources that you can build up confidence with from the get-go, because you're not going into it totally blind. And that's kind of like what a lot of people feel like when they're going into a CVT or when they ride a bike for the first time. They feel like as if it's gonna, well, they don't know what to expect, so they start psyching themselves out because they don't know what to expect. Whereas if you give yourself that time, do a little bit of research, then you'll go into it a little bit more confident because you'll kind of understand what you're meant to do. So that's the first thing that I would do if you're looking to get into bikes, if you're looking to do your CVT or what have you, whatever the case might be in your part of the world. Do your research. Alright, have a look. There's plenty of content out there, so have a look and get yourself as clued up as possible around motorcycles. And then it'll give you a massive confidence boost when you're actually there, because everything is exactly the same as you saw in the videos, as you saw in your research. You know what I mean? Knowledge is power. And that's the kind of attitude you need to have you need to think about. It's the kind of attitude you need to have. And I know this sounds a lot harder than, I know this is a lot harder than it sounds rather, but don't be afraid to ask questions, loads of questions. Ask as many questions as you can. If there's anything you don't know about, if you're unsure about, ask. Ask me. Ask in the comments, send me an email. Ask your instructor, it doesn't matter, just ask the questions. Because then you're going to be left wondering, well, what does this mean? What does that mean? How the hell do I do this? And that's the thing, when you're learning a new skill for the first time, especially one that is as complicated as driving a car or learning how to ride a motorcycle, well, again, that on its own can be really intimidating when you don't feel that you can ask questions. Ask away. Ask as many questions you can. If I can't respond to them, or if I don't get around to responding to them, other people in our little community will. They will fill in the blanks for you. So don't be afraid to ask questions. Honestly, we're all here to help each other, right? This channel is all about trying to help people, not just encourage people around motorcycles and get people riding, but also to provide a little bit of community for those people that don't feel like they have one. I'm one of those people. I don't have a community. I don't have any buddies that ride with me. I don't. The only person I have is my wife, and that's it. And even then, it can be difficult trying to get her to get on her bike. You know what I mean? So, that's, part of this journey for me was to provide a little bit of community for everyone else that is in a similar position to me, that doesn't have a community to rely on, that doesn't have a community that they can communicate with, to ask these so-called silly questions. And that's the thing. When things are out of context, there's a lot of things will be out of context for you when you start riding a motorcycle for the first time. You are going to be asking questions that might seem silly. But honestly, as a martial arts instructor, I've been doing it for a long time, and I'm a qualified sports coach. I have a degree in sports coaching and sports science, sports physiology and all that. The one thing you realise is when newbies are doing a sport for the first time, they have loads and loads of really weird and quirky questions that you never thought anyone would ask. But at the same time, it's not your place to judge them for that. It's remembering that they don't know what they're doing. And just keeping that in mind, that every question that you answer, and you answer well, creates a picture for them, creates a bigger picture. And that's what you're trying to do on a bike as well. You're trying to give yourself the biggest picture possible on how to ride it, and understanding what the experience is going to feel like, and exploring that experience as well for yourself. Woo! When you feel power like that for the first time, well, you might feel a little bit differently about it, but me, I was scared and just in awe at exactly the same time. I was like, wow, I need more of this. I need another hit of that. And it becomes an addiction for me. And with a lot of you guys as well, I suspect. People that like riding bikes like this, that is the same. That's one thing we have in common, is that we all are like, wow, that is fun. Woo! Oh man, it makes you giddy. Makes you just so happy. Puts a massive smile on your face. For some people, that's not going to be the case. But that's fine. You don't have to buy a motorcycle like this to, you know, you don't have to buy a motorcycle like this. You don't have to experience bikes like this. If you're one of those people that doesn't like roller coasters, for example, then a motorcycle like this isn't going to be for you. But that doesn't mean that there aren't bikes out there that will be. There are going to be bikes out there that are going to be a really good in-between, where you can have loads of fun, but you still have a little bit of that power, because of course motorcycles, a lot of them are defined by their power. Because this bike, okay, costs 16 grand, brand new, or 17,000 pounds on the road, brand new. You spent 17 grand on a brand new car, there's no way it's going to perform like this. This will smoke it. And so the price of performance that you get on a bike is just out of this world. But that doesn't mean that every single motorcycle is crazy scary. Alright? Because they're not. In fact, the vast majority of them are very tame. And if that is the experience that you enjoy, then great. But you've got to find it. You've got to put yourself out there to try and find it. That's the only thing. And like I kind of said, every motorcycle can give you that fear factor, that intimidation factor. So you have got to be willing to put yourself out there a little bit to understand where your tolerance is, where your limits are. I mean, the thing is, with me, it really depends on who you are, but with me, I haven't found that limit yet that I'm not excited by. And the thing is, like, the first time I got on this bike, I was like, wow, this is scary, but it's a hell of a lot of fun. And that's kind of like the attitude I've always had on bikes. As soon as I've gotten used to them, I'm like, wow, this is really scary, but at the same time, I'm enjoying it. And I suppose it's a similar kind of thing to like skydiving or bungee jumping. That kind of experience is ultra terrifying, but at the same time, that's what makes people enjoy it so much more. It's like the closer you are to death, the more fun you're gonna have. But like I said, that is not the case for everybody. Not everyone is going to enjoy that. My wife does, but she doesn't particularly like roller coasters or putting herself out there too much. But that's what I'm saying, you don't have to. Alright, there's a motorcycle for absolutely everyone and what their tolerance is. Okay? So just keep that in mind, alright? Don't be afraid to put yourself out there. The prospect of riding a motorcycle is actually more intimidating than the ride itself. Trust me. These machines will only do what you want them to do. That's why they're only as dangerous as you make them, okay? They're only as intimidating as you make them. You can get a bike like this, and you can ride it slow. Okay? You can ride and drive anything slow. Even if something is incredibly fast, has a lot of power, you can ride it, you can drive it slowly. Just keep that in mind. Okay? That's the best advice I can give anyone that is afraid of motorcycles or afraid of fast cars, whatever it might be. You can drive the thing, you can ride the thing slowly. You can drive and ride fast things slowly. It's the best phrase I think I've ever come up with. I mean, I don't think I've not heard anyone else say it. Maybe I'm not the first person, but you know what I mean. It's just something that really makes a lot of sense. I think the issue is that a lot of people, they start thinking of all these what ifs. What if this? What if that? What if this? And again, it just psychs people out. Don't think about that. Think about the enjoyment that you're going to get. Because trust me, once you start understanding how to enjoy a motorcycle, and once you let go of that fear, that's when you're going to really start enjoying it. But don't get me wrong, that fear will make you really sharp. That fear will make you really think about every single little thing that you're doing to make sure that you are as safe as possible. So make sure you keep that, but at the same time use it at the same time as trying to explore the enjoyment, because you'll find it. But you've got to put yourself out there to do it. You've got to give yourself the opportunity to enjoy it, and the only way to do that is by riding to begin with. Oh, and this bike is like, this isn't even my ultimate form. Oh god, it's so fun. So fun. So yeah, everyone, don't think about what could happen on a motorcycle. Just think about what you're doing on it. Just remember what you're trying to achieve. Remember what you're trying to learn. Don't think about the what ifs. You can think about the what ifs later, when you've got a little bit of confidence and when you've got a little bit of that context that you so desperately need, because all of this is out of context when you first start riding bikes, or even when you're exploring new bikes that you've not ridden before. Same old thing. All right, so don't think about those what ifs. Just think about the potential, like the potential for enjoyment. Anyway, everyone, I hope that you've enjoyed this ride out with me. We've had a little bit of rain that I wasn't expecting, but let me know what you think down in the comment section below. As like I kind of mentioned, this isn't really a topic that people discuss all that often. So if you found a really good way of, I don't know, calming yourself down before you do something really difficult, because I think as well that a lot of the state of mind sort of plays, the sort of aspects of riding a motorcycle can also be, it can be compared to difficult things that you're going to do throughout life, and preparing yourself mentally could be a very similar process. But let me know what you think down in the comment section. As always, leave that like, hit that subscribe button, don't forget to hit the notification bell as well, please. That really helps us out, and you won't get to miss any of our future content on the wicked Kawasaki ZH2. And I hope you all ride safe, hope you all have a good one, and we will catch you all in the next video. Take care, everyone.